Pleased to present Austin Faith Dialogue, brought to you by the Austin Metropolitan Ministries. In the weeks ahead, you will see these and other programs by various denominations.
The educational system in America isn't working. Crime and drugs are proof of that. But there is an organization in Austin meant to pick up those who fall through the cracks of the system. We'll learn more about this group on today's edition of Austin Faith Dialogue.
Austin Faith Dialogue, a public affairs series at the crossroads of religion and life. Austin Faith Dialogue highlights the interaction of the religious community with the social and cultural issues in the area in and around the capital city. Austin Faith Dialogue is brought to you by Austin Metropolitan Ministries in cooperation with KTBC TV. Join us now for this week's edition of Austin Faith Dialogue.
Gronberg, pastor of Gethsemane Lutheran and your host for today's edition of Austin Faith Dialogue. We're going to discuss today what is being done in Austin to help dropouts to become self-sufficient. But first, I'd like to share with you some statistics. Texas has a dropout rate of 33%. More than 2,000 students drop out of Austin schools each year. 1 out of every 5 Travis County adults lacks the basic skills to be a productive worker. And of Texas inmates, 92% are dropouts. In 1978, the American Institute for Learning was founded to offer help for those neglected by our school systems. And joining us today on Austin Faith Dialogue are Richard Halpin, who is founder and chief executive officer of the Institute, and Cecilia Gonzalez Bustamante, an outreach specialist for American Institute for Learning. Richard, Cecilia, thanks for being with us on Austin Faith Dialogue. It's good to have you here, and we're excited to hear about your program and what you're doing. But let's talk a little bit about the history of the American Institute for Learning. Richard, how did it start?
Thank you, Carl. It's a pleasure to be here. The Institute was born out of prayer, I think would be the simplest way to put it. There's always problems in our society, and we can either curse the darkness or we can light a candle, I guess, to put it very simply. And I was working in the jails in Austin. I was setting up the first education and job training program in the Travis County Jail, and an older inmate came to me and said, you know, I may come back here. Even though you're teaching me how to read, I just may come back here because this is the only home I've ever known. It's the only place I've gotten food, consistent food, and the only place I've consistently had a bed. But if you could reach the kids before they get like me, they might have a chance. And I said, well, what do you mean? He said, well, look around you. All these people here in jail are illiterate. How did they get that way? They dropped out of school. So in the mid-70s, I went to the school districts and I said, how many people drop out of school? And they said, we don't have any idea. We just get paid anyway. And I thought, what a disincentive to provide top-quality education. So that began a series of experiences to try to set up alternatives that worked for young people. And those alternatives have worked so well that young people now bring in their parents and they bring in their little children, and we create, in partnership with the business community and the city and the county and the state government, we create real alternatives for whole families.
Richard, I want to ask you about your background. You have a religious background. You were working in the jails. What led you to work in the jails?
My experience growing up in a Christian family, the message of the gospel was always a very simple one for us, and that was to love your neighbor.
Are you telling me then there was a prophet there in the county jail who challenged you as a person?
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying.
To say, get on the ball and do something, and not only help those of us who are here at the county jail, but also help the youth. And you got that vision from that individual,
oh, absolutely.
Is that right?
I I believe very strongly in prayer. I believe that it is that most powerful force that can change the world. And so I try to do it as much as I can, and that was the answer to a prayer. What do I do next? And we got this education program going, and we're teaching people how to get jobs. What do we do next? And
well, tell me about that. How did you start? You started there in the jail then, is that correct?
Went into the jail in '75, bringing artists into the jail. Cultural wealth. The whole thing was founded on cultural wealth.
Talk about cultural wealth.
Sure.
For those who are incarcerated?
Oh, absolutely. When you've got nothing left, you've got nothing to lose. It's at that point that you can remember all the wealth that you never thought you had. And culture is one of those inheritances that are wiped out often by a dominant culture that whitewashes everything but its own dominance. And that's happened too much in our country. We call it a melting pot, and the people at the bottom get burned in melting pots. What it really is a glorious tapestry of the different cultures that make up, whether they be religious cultures or, as you mentioned earlier, Christians and Muslims and Jewish people or people of all different religions woven together, whether they be ethnic cultures, whatever. That's the tapestry we have, and if we will only look at that tapestry and realize the beauty, people can tap back into their cultural wealth. When we work with people who are very, very poor, and sometimes they say to themselves, I'm nothing, I have nothing. But when you see an artist or somebody perform from your culture, like that music that you played before the show, well, that's Cecilia's cultural music. And she said to us, that's my culture. Well, when I was in the jail, we brought Freddie King into the jail. And I was standing next to a gentleman who stood up 3 inches taller when Mr. King played. And he turned to me and he said, that's my culture. And I began to think, gosh, if we could just create a foundation of people getting their inheritance for remembering their culture, then they've got something to stand on.
The Bible speaks of birthright.
There you go.
And that strength that is a part of each person's life is their birthright, and knowing that they have worth and value and significance. Out of the jail, you moved where?
Out of the jail, we started the Creative Rapid Learning Center in 1978, sponsored by the University of YWCA. And Laguna Gloria Art Museum. And we started homeless ourselves. For the first 3 years, we had no home. We never knew where we were going to be.
How many in your staff, Creative Rapid Learning Center? How many people did you have there?
Well, we had me and another person. And
a vision.
And a vision, and we had no money. We had nothing. We had absolutely nothing. I lived way out in the country. I hitchhiked back and forth to town every day, and God provided everything. It was prayer that did it all, and it took us a couple of years, and then we got a staff. We got a big grant. We got all of a sudden from...
The grant came from whom?
Grant came from CETA, and we were told that we had 16 people now working for us, and they would be with us for a month, and then they'd be gone. So I said, okay, fine, we'll take it. And we geared up and then started to gear down, and they came back and said, oh no, this will be going for a year because you're doing something that's really wonderful. And nobody else was doing anything for dropouts at the time. We were the first dropout program.
So from the jail then, the Creative Rapid Learning Center started focusing on these young people, on the dropouts, is that correct? We
went and picked up kids who were wandering the streets, who were getting into trouble, who were into drugs. We picked them up. We ministered to them. Ostensibly what it was a Christian ministry. And we just picked people up, and whatever they needed eyeglasses, they needed food, they needed shelter, they needed education, whatever it was, we tried to find it for them.
From beginnings in poverty, then, you've grown, and we're going to talk about that in a little while, about how you have grown and what your plans are for the future. But let's talk to Cecilia. You're an outreach specialist now, is that correct?
That's
for the
right.
Creative Rapid Learning Center. Tell us about that.
And the American Institute for Learning, which is a component of, Creative Rapid Learning Center is a component of the American Institute for Learning. My job in the organization is to get the word out and be a resource to as many organizations, agencies, individuals. And it's quite an exciting job. And being in the talk show, thanks for having us again. Again, it's one-on-one sometimes, and sometimes it's going into the churches, meeting different school groups, the parent specialists, and trying to get the word out.
Do you ever meet some youth who are dropouts and speak to them one-on-one?
Constantly.
Tell me about that.
That is the most enriching part of my job. Seeing that individual come from their neighborhood and having no successful avenues for them, but creating a door that they can open. And again, you know, it very much, it takes a lot of effort from an individual to come to that place.
Absolutely. Cecilia, when you meet someone who is a dropout and you encounter them and you're one-on-one with them discussing things, what do you sense that's within that individual? Is there frustration? Is there anxiety, anger? What are they feeling?
I think a sense of hopelessness.
Hopelessness.
Yeah. And I think that what Richard said is true of the organization, that we do have a real sense of community and prayer in what we are doing. We have a real commitment. So what we're trying to create is not just an educational environment, but a whole new life for them.
Cecilia, how did you become involved? How did that happen for you?
I was an outreach specialist for Austin Community College, and AIL was one of my center points where I focus on young people to get them to ACC. And I was always very drawn to the kind of individual that came to AIL and the Creative Rapid Learning Center. So on my visits, once a week, once a month, I would meet different young people to come to the college, and I was just, you know, really taken by the whole organization, and a position came open, and I was recruited, and I'm very happy there.
I think, Richard, that probably you on the staff of Creative Rapid Learning Center are very taken with Cecilia.
Oh, absolutely.
And her spontaneity and the spirit that's a part of her life. I can see why these young people would relate well with her. Talk to me about the name, Creative Rapid Learning Center. Creative, rapid, what does that all mean?
Simply what it says. To be creative is to be flexible and create whatever it takes to help people become self-sufficient, to get off the welfare rolls and onto the job rolls. You have to be creative to do that, because the system is not set up for that to happen. The system that we have in place is set up to fracture that and to frustrate that, unintentionally, I'm sure. Rapid, because we can see rapid growth. People can get off the welfare rolls and onto the job rolls in 3 years or less. These are people who've been on welfare for generations. Learning, because we're all about learning. All of us learn. I learn every day. I learn from Cecilia. I learn from our students. I learn from everybody. And center, because, Carl, what we're really trying to create is a response to the needs of our students. They teach us everything. They're the experts for us. They are the ones who have taught us that you've got to have multiple services in one location. You can't say to poor people or anybody who needs services, get on a bus and go to these 5 locations. It isn't going to work. Yet that's what we've been doing. So as a positive alternative to that, a lighting the candle for us has been to continually add services through partnerships with other people. For example, the city and the county, both funders of ours, now have a clinic set up with us. And we do the medical screening for all of our participants on site. And when they need more than that, we have arrangements with city clinics and the People's Community Clinic to get services.
Richard, when Cecilia encounters a person who's a dropout, a young person, give me an age. What age would that person be?
16.
16 years old, who's experienced a lot of frustration, a feeling of hopelessness. They come to you, to the Creative Rapid Learning Center. What happens there?
We do a complete intake on all of our people. We have our own paperwork difficulties we have to deal with because of the different funding streams we have, but we do a complete intake. We do a complete educational assessment. We know exactly where they're functioning and not functioning. We devise an individual education plan for each student. We get them counseling, health screening, employment training. We have a cultural warriors program, a youth entrepreneurship program, an environmental core, whatever it takes, and they get plugged into whatever they like that vibrates with their needs.
Cecilia, this man has enthusiasm and vision, does he not?
Yes.
Is he a fun guy to work with?
It's great to work with him. I mean, it really, the whole organization is based on that sort of enthusiasm, and we're all very committed. We're all part of the community and have a very personal commitment to seeing other people empower themselves.
If there are some youth or even some parents, families watching Austin Faith Dialogue as they watch this program and they want to contact you, Cecilia, how do they do that?
They can call at 472-8220. They can come by and drop by the school and get a feel for what we're like. And I really like to recommend that, because we like to get them in the school to get a real vision of what it's like in there. And we often have them meet other participants. It's really important that they meet other participants so they can share some of the stories.
Adults that can't read or write are welcome at the school. We have classes for adults and teenagers, and we're able now to serve the little children of the adults and teenagers who come to our school. We're open from 8 to 9 every day but Friday.
Located where?
4th and Congress.
All right, and you're going to be building, is that right?
Yes.
You have a dream and a vision, and we're going to put some of this up on the screen so that people can see not only where you're located now and how to get hold of you, but also we want to talk about your new building. Tell me about that.
Well, we've been so successful in the sense that we've gotten so many people who've come to our program, youth and adults and now little children, that over the 700 people that we served last year, we got waiting lists and people more to serve. So on the screen, we're putting up a drawing of our new building, which is going to be a 45,000 square foot facility at 4th and Brazos, 1 block east of our current location at 4th and Congress. This half a block of downtown Austin, which we have purchased through God's help, we're now raising $4 million.
What do we have there, Richard?
$4 million. That's an atrium, and that's where people will share. Community comes and shares with each other. We probably won't have a fountain, but we'll probably have a cultural frieze, a cultural expression, the tapestry. And there again is another expression of heroes and heroines who give us a chance to be inspired to overcome the difficulties in our lives. And that band around the top is a cultural frieze of all the different cultures that make up Texas.
Richard, what I have heard you say in the first part of this program is that you are holding up before people the potential of their lives. You're giving them some goals to work for, and you're saying that there is a birthright within you. And thanks be to God for that anonymous person in the county jail who challenged you to do this.
Sure.
Would you say to anybody, Cecilia meets them, and they come to you, what would you say to a youth who's a dropout?
Well, I would say one thing just a little differently. We don't hold up goals for people. We help people identify their own goals,
Good.
and then they hold up goals for themselves. And that's a difference in empowerment. We enable people to do that for themselves. And I'd say to people, if you want to live a life out of poverty, if you want to live a life that has hope, if you want to live a life that's healthy and have a way to bring up your family and you want to work, we're here for you.
And we're going to meet some of those people in just a minute. We're going to take a break, and then joining Richard and Cecilia and me on the program will be 2 of the students from AIL. Stay with us.
Serving Austin means serving you. That has always been the primary goal of Austin Metropolitan Ministries. We are religion in action through the work of these organizations. Each plays a key role in making the capital city a better place to live, but we can't do it alone. Do you have some spare time, talents, or any resources that you can share? If you do, please call AMM at 472-7627, because serving Austin means serving you.
Welcome to Austin Faith Dialogue. Since its creation, the American Institute for Learning has served thousands of students. With us on the program now are Janie Guerra, a Creative Rapid Learning Center graduate, and Jamila Roos, a former participant in the summer program and this year serving as a summer intern. Jamila, welcome. Janie, welcome. We've got the head man here right beside us, you guys, so we're going to talk about the good stuff of the Creative Rapid Learning Center. Tell us a little bit about being a graduate, Janie. When did you start in with the Creative Rapid Learning Center?
I'd say, when did I start? I really don't remember when I started. I think, well, I dropped out of high school when I was 17 years old. And then that's when I heard of the Creative Rapid Learning Center.
Did an outreach person get the word to you, or how did you find out about it?
I believe a cousin of mine used to go to school there, and she told me about the place. And at first I didn't, you know, I just dropped out of high school and I was doing odd jobs. And then I caught myself, you know, just not getting anywheres. And I said, wait a minute, I'm 17 years old and here I am doing odd jobs. And I said, I got to go back to school. And I didn't want to go back to public schools. So that's when my cousin told me of Creative Rapid Learning Center.
So here was an alternative for you to continue your education. How long did it take you? And maybe more importantly than how long it took you, what did you find when you got to the Creative Rapid Learning Center?
Okay, when I went to the Creative Rapid Learning Center, it was different than the public schools. What I really liked about it was more like a family. And you know, you get like this attention and no one never knocks you down or puts you down. They always encourage you that you can make it, that you can become someone, and that you can set your own goals there. And I think that's very important because, I mean, without an education, you can't really get anywhere.
Did you start believing in Janie Guerra? Is that what happened?
Definitely.
Richard, when you hear this story, and you hear Janie, and now I understand she's working as receptionist for you all and doing a good job. How many lines did you say coming?
Janie handles 8 lines, which often come in at the same time. And I sit there and I try to do it sometimes. It's too difficult a job for me to do, so...
I'm glad you're not doing that, okay,
me too.
Richard? Tell us about what you think when you hear Janie's story and how she had dropped out of school and she heard about you all. What does that do to you?
It relates to something you said earlier. When you invited us on the show, you said, just talk from your heart. And what this does is connects the outside to the inside for me. This is why we're doing this. And that makes my heart smile and my soul feel glad and feels like what we're doing is the right thing to do.
Jamila, you're not a dropout. Matter of fact, you've just finished your first year at Harvard, which is a fine university, they tell me. But you had gone to public schools in Austin and done well there. And you'd also gone to a private school in Austin. And then you heard about the summer program with Creative Rapid Learning Center. Tell us about how that all happened.
Well, I heard about it through a relative who had been involved with some of their activities, and she was telling me that this would be a good way for me to get a summer job because, you know, my parents didn't have much money, and it's very hard for youngsters to get jobs these days. It's hard for adults to get jobs, and I needed this to earn money. And so I applied for the program, and I was accepted into the program, and I worked at the Capitol as an intern for a representative, which was wonderful because I had been thinking of international relations as a possible career choice, and that just gave me the extra push and, you know, helped build my interest, and I gained a lot from that experience, and now my major is government international relations.
So the summer job you received came through the Creative Rapid Learning Center, is that correct?
It came through us. It's a special grant that's provided by the Austin-Travis County Private Industry Council called the Summer 2B program. And Jamila was one of our students last year. We serve 50 to 100 in-school young people every summer who are economically disadvantaged. And that's how Jamila got in the program, through the PIC-supported effort. Jamila worked at the Capitol, and because she did such a great job, I actually have to tell you this quick story. She did so well that I tried to get her on at the governor's mansion, at the governor's office. I tried to get her on with some of the law firms in town. I knew she was coming back to town, and nobody responded to my letters. You know, you ought to hire this person for the summer. And we ended up with Jamila, and I thought, what a gift. Here you go to try to get somebody placed with somebody else, wishing all the while that they were going to be with you. But you try to do it with somebody else, and it didn't work, and it didn't work. So I said, God, what is the deal here? What do you want me to do?
And the Lord said, Richard, put her to work with you.
Yeah.
Is that right? That's what you're telling us.
Well, her relative called and said, you know, she really just wants to work with you guys.
And what do you do now for the Creative Rapid Learning Center this summer? You're an intern there, right?
Right. I do legislative research so that we can gain knowledge about our state. And I'm also involved with the Cultural Warriors program, which is a cultural awareness group in which we're creating a play. And it will be performed at the end of the summer, and throughout the fall, hopefully all the students will stay together and we'll make our own troupe work on our own. And I'm also working with an outreach program that will involve ministers, Austin area ministers, in AIL's programs, and hopefully the community can come together so that we can all work together.
Now, this lovely young lady has a lot on the ball, and she is really prodding us in the religious community to be aware of our responsibility to education. And Richard, respond to that. What can the faith communities do?
Thank you. Well, there's many things, of course. Mentor, tutors, apprenticeship opportunities, coming down to the center and actually working with the many other very gifted and brilliant young ladies besides these two, who we've had the privilege of working with. We have about 55% young women, and the rest are young men. We work day and night with youth and adults. We need tutors. We need people who will be consistent and responsible. We want to, part of Jamila's job for the summer is to work with congregations who will adopt a family, one family, and help them get out of poverty. You know, we have a whole housing program where we work with the city, and we actually take people out of homelessness and put them in houses. They have no beds. They have no furniture. They have no silverware. They have no nothing. If one congregation adopts one family and just helps them get the basic essentials that they need, they can begin to move from subsidy to self-sufficiency.
See, I think I know a congregation who wants to get involved in that.
Oh, super.
And so you might want to contact their pastor and talk to him about it. And Jamila, do that. Call Gethsemane Lutheran and talk to the pastor there, because I think he might be interested in doing that. Janie, what about getting whole families involved in this? This is a very exciting program. I understand, is your mother coming to school now? Well,
yeah.
talk to us about your mom coming to school.
Okay,
I
well,
mean, you have led mom to school?
Well, she was really excited and really proud of me, because at first she thought, here, you know, here's my oldest daughter, and she dropped out of high school, and this is it. And I was like, no, Mom, it's not it, you know, and they've really encouraged me to get my education, because my mom, she dropped out of high school, well, not out of high school, I think it was junior high, out of the 7th grade, and they always traveled a lot doing, I believe, like migrant worker? Migrant worker. And, you know, I told her, Mom, it's never too late for you to get your education. And now she's you know, attending the Skills Connection, and now she's all excited about it. And one of these days, I'm going to get my GED. She's really excited
Skills
about
Connection.
it.
Richard, what is it?
Skills Connection is for adults who are operating below the 3rd grade level. Adults. Janie's husband has been a participant with us. Janie's husband, now because of one of our employer sponsors, the Whole Foods Market, he now works, Joseph now works at the Whole Foods Market, and they love Joseph, and Joseph loves being there. So it's another way the community has responded by an employer coming in saying, we'll be partners with you. You help us hire good people.
You know, I think the people watching Austin Faith Dialogue are really fortunate. I think they're fortunate every week when they watch Austin Faith Dialogue, but today they're really fortunate because you are telling them about possibilities within this wonderful community where we live, Austin. Jamila, you're at Harvard University. You come back home for the summer. What makes you excited about working this year or this summer with Creative Rapid Learning Center?
Well, first of all, I have the experience of being a participant for one summer, and I know what it gave me, which was work experience that I wouldn't have had. And I saw what it gave other people also. And my mother is working at the Skills Connection as a teacher's aide, and she sees students just doing really well. And I think it's just, I mean, because of my studying at school, I mean, I'm learning a lot, and I'm learning that, I mean, everybody should have this joy. Everybody should get to do this. This is so wonderful. But it doesn't always happen because the school system doesn't look out for everybody. And it can't right now, but I think it can one day. And, you know, Creative Rapid Learning Center, AIL, is really making a move in that direction. I really want to see that happen.
What our young people and our older people have taught us, Carl, is creating one-stop comprehensive human empowerment centers where whole families can come and get all the services they need. And God's given us this half a block of downtown Austin at 4th and Brazos, and we would say to your listeners and audience members, join us, help us build this facility.
And let's
We're raising
do that.
$4
Let's
million
show them,
to do this.
Let's show them how they can be a part of it by putting on the screen the address, the location, and the telephone number one more time, so that they might know who are watching this program that there are opportunities for learning. Janie, thank you. God bless you, and continue to do the good things that you do in your work in answering those 8 lines. Jamila, good luck at Harvard University, and keep up the good work. And my goodness, come back home to Austin. We need people like you. Your name means beautiful in Swahili, and indeed you are a beautiful person. And Richard,
yes, thank you.
As I said at the beginning of the program, I'm thankful for that person in the jail who said to you, why don't you do something for the youth? And I'm thankful to all of you for watching Austin Faith Dialogue. Please continue with us and watch our program again next week. Have a good day. Peace be with you.
For more information, call Austin Metropolitan Ministries